Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, it's good to see you. Sir, did you introduce your legislation today to sanction Hamas and every member of Hamas? Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. No, I introduced that legislation today, and it's designed to cut off the funds for these Hamas terrorists, these monsters that have targeted civilians, that have raped and murdered women and little girls, that have murdered infants. And this is designed to sanction and go after every member of Hamas and cut off the money that is fueling their engine of war. One of the most indefensible aspects of the last 2.5 years under Joe Biden is the billions of dollars that have flowed to terrorists who hate us. If there's one simple principle, we should stop giving money to terrorists who want to murder us. Under Joe Biden, roughly $100 billion has flowed to Iran. Iran, the Ayatollah, chants death to America and death to Israel. Iran funds Hamas. They fund Hezbollah. My legislation is designed to cut all of that money off. In addition to that, under Joe Biden, hundreds of millions of dollars have flowed to Gaza. Gaza is controlled by Hamas, and that money from the Biden administration, in a very direct way, is funding the death squads, is funding the rockets. We need to cut all of that off. That's what this legislation is designed to do.
Senator, has anybody stepped forward to support this legislation in the Senate?
Well, so I've just introduced the legislation. I think we will get the support of most, if not every, Republican. I hope we get the support of Democrats. Unfortunately, this is divided on party lines, and a number of Democrats have thought it was a good idea to go soft on Iran. I think that has proven spectacularly wrong. Look, I'll give you an example on Gaza. The beginning of the Biden administration wanted to send hundreds of millions of dollars to Gaza. I brought together a coalition of 17 senators, all Republicans, urging the administration, do not send that money to Gaza because it will go to Hamas and Hamas will use it for terrorism. At the same time, 145 House members, all Democrats, sent a letter to the Biden administration saying, do send that money to Gaza, even though it will go to Hamas for terrorism. And what the Biden administration did, they assessed it, and they concluded that there was a high risk, those are their words, high risk, the money would go to Hamas for terrorism. Under ordinary federal law, it's illegal to send money when there's a high risk it'll go to terrorism. But they waived the anti-terrorism law and they sent the money anyway because politically they wanted to send the money even if it ended up being used to murder Jews in Israel.
Yeah, but you know, this
I think that was a tragic mistake.
So what you're saying, you know, the message though, wait, let me back up. When you see protesters storming the football field, delaying the USC versus UC Berkeley football game, calling for a ceasefire. You see the NYPD arresting hundreds of protesters who shut down Grand Central Terminal. 7,000 pro-Hamas, anti-Israel protesters shut down the Brooklyn Bridge. This is happening over the weekend. We had anti-Semitic riots in an airport in Russia, a mob reportedly hunting for passengers on a flight from Tel Aviv. But then you have what, a lot of people are saying, this split inside the Democrat Party. Let's get your reaction to Democrats attacking each other. Indiana Democrat Andrew Carson went after fellow Democrat Rep. Josh Gottheimer over his support of Israel. Watch this.
He's cowardly. I think he's not acting in the role as a member of Congress. Like most cowardly people, when you confront them, they're afraid. I'm unafraid of the guy. And if he wants to call us despicable, I'm saying he's a coward and he's a punk. And he should remember why the people sent him here. And if he wants to play some kind of tough guy or gangster, we can handle it like gentlemen and we can get into something else.
Well, Trey, what's been interesting about these atrocities in Israel is it has revealed the level of, at best, contempt for Israel that many in the Democratic Party and Democratic members of Congress have for Israel, or in some cases even hatred. When members of the Democratic Party won't move to condemn a terrorist organization who does that against the American people, I think it really shows how far the Democratic Party has moved.
Senator, 15 House Democrats did not vote in favor of that bipartisan resolution supporting Israel and condemning Hamas. What's going on here?
Look, it's sad and it's tragic. Josh Gottheimer is exactly right there. One of the really dangerous developments we've seen in recent years is the rise on the radical left of a blatant hatred for Israel and a naked anti-Semitism. The Squad, They despise Israel. You saw it right there. And we see this anti-Semitism on college campuses across the country where Jewish students are being threatened. It is wrong. In my view, we ought to be clear and unequivocal. America stands with Israel, period. These terrorists are monsters. These are war crimes, and Israel has a right to defend itself.
Got it. Senator Cruz, come back soon. We'll stay on the story.
Thank you.
Sure.